The reunification was gradual. It started with supervised day visit, then overnight stay, then weekends, and finally full-time placement. Sophie needed time to trust her parents would truly be present this time, that they wouldn't leave her vulnerable again. And slowly, carefully, that trust began to rebuild. Diana would later say in an interview with child welfare advocates that she will carry the guilt of what happened for the rest of her life, that there is no forgiving herself for not being there when Sophie needed her. But she also said that guilt cannot be the focus anymore. Sophie's healing has to be, and every day Diana and Robert wake up committed to being the parents Sophie deserved. Even if they weren't the parents she needed 2 years ago, they can't change the past, but they can shape the future. Now, 5 months later, in early 2025, Sophie is now 9 years old. She still sees her therapy weekly. She still has nightmares sometimes. She still struggles with trusting people, especially teenage boys. She asks a lot of questions about her parents and when they'll be back if they leave the house, even briefly. She needs constant reassurance, but she's always laughing again. She's made friends at her new school. She discovered that she loves soccer and piano. She's drawing bright pictures again, full of sunshine and flower and hope. She's healing, not linear. There are good days and hard days, but the trajectory is towards recovery, toward reclaiming the childhood that was stolen from her. Her parents are vigilant now in ways they weren't before. They monitor everything. They have open conversation about body safety and appropriate touch. They've installed internet monitoring software on every device in the house. They've learned to organize the sign of trauma and distress. They've built a community of support, including therapists, support groups, and other families who've experienced similar traumas. As for Ethan, he remained in the residential treatment facility. He participated in therapy, both individual and group, with other adolescent offenders. He's enrolled in educational programs, working towards his high school diploma. He's on medication for his mental health condition. The therapist reports that he's making progress in understanding the harm he caused and developing empathy and healthy coping mechanism. Whether he will truly be rehabilitated, whether he will be safe to be in society when he's released remain an open question. The recidivism rates for juvenile sexual offenders vary widely depending on the quality and intensity of treatment received. Ethan's treatment team is cautiously optimistic but realistic. He's done terrible things. The question is whether he can become someone different, someone who would never harm another person. Only time will tell. Sophie has said she doesn't ever want to see him again. That's her right. That boundary is respected, absolutely. Maybe when she's older, when she's healed more, she'll feel differently. Or maybe she won't. Either choice is valid. Her healing doesn't require forgiving him. It only requires processing what happened and learning to live a full life despite it. Let's talk about what we can learn from Sophie's story, because that's ultimately why stories like this need to be told, not to sensitilize trauma, not to exploit pain, but to educate and prevent. Let's talk about what we can learn from Sophie's story, because that's ultimately why stories like this need to be told, not to sensationalize trauma, not to exploit pain, but to educate and prevent. First, we need to understand that sibling sexual abuse is far more common than most people realize. Studies suggest it may be the most prevalent form of intrafamilial sexual abuse, yet it's dramatically underreported and under-researched. Many families dismiss concerning sexual behavior between siblings as normal curiosity or experimentation when it's actually abuse. The key difference is consent and power dynamics. When there is a significant age difference, when one sibling is in a position of authority over another, when there is coercion or manipulation or force, it's abuse, period. Parents need to be educated about these dynamics so that they can recognize them and intervene immediately. Second, we need to talk about supervision and internet safety. Ethan's access to extreme pornographic content played a significant role in his offending behavior. This isn't to say that pornography causes abuse. Most people who view pornography never harm anyone. But for vulnerable adolescents who are isolated, who lack healthy sexual education, who are already struggling with mental ill health, issues, exposure to violent and degrading sexual content can warp their developing understanding of sex and relationship. Parents need to monitor their children's internet use, have open age appropriate conversation about what they might encounter online, and create environments where children feel safe asking questions about confusing or disturbing content rather than processing it alone. Technology gives young people access to material that their brain aren't developed enough to process healthily. We have to be aware of that and proactive about it. Third, we need to recognize warning signs in children's behavior. Sophie showed numerous signs that something was wrong. Changes in behavior, nightmare, regression in toileting, withdrawal from activities, and friends' emotional distress concerning artwork, and eventually verbal hints to trusted adults. But the adults in her life didn't connect those dots quickly enough or take them seriously enough. This isn't to blame those adults. They were doing their best with the information they had, but it highlights the need for better training. Teachers, coach, and counselor, doctor, anyone who works with children should receive comprehensive training in recognizing signs of abuse and trauma. And when they do recognize those signs, they need to be clear protocol for how to respond, how to report, and how to support the child through the disclosure and investigation process. Fourth, children need to know that it's safe and important to tell when something is wrong. Sophie tried to tell through her behavior and her acts, but she needed to use words before anyone could help her. She was afraid to speak up because Ethan had convinced her she would be in trouble, that no one would believe her, that telling would make everything worse. That's exactly what abusers say to keep their victims silent. Parents and caregivers need to have ongoing conversation with children about body safety, about the difference between safe and unsafe secrets, about how no one is allowed to touch them in ways that make them uncomfortable, no matter who that person is. And critically, children need to know that if they tell and adult doesn't believe them or help them, they should keep telling other adults until someone does. The average child discloses abuse 7 times before receiving help. That 7th time they gather the courage to speak up and are dismissed or ignored. We have to do better. Fifth, we need to address the isolation and mental health struggle that often precede offending behavior in young people. Ethan was isolated. depressed, and drowning in shame about thoughts and urges he didn't understand. He needed help desperately, but didn't know how to ask for it. Many adolescents who engage in harmful sexual behavior are themselves trauma survivors or are struggling with untreated mental health condition. This doesn't excuse their action, but it does point to the need for better mental health support for young people. Schools need counselors trained to recognize and intervene with at-risk youth. Parents need to create home environments where mental health is discussed openly and seeking help is normalized, not stigmatized. Communities need accessible mental health service for adolescents that are confidential enough to encourage help seeking. 6. We need to fundamentally rethink how we can structure families and work. Robert and Diana's constant travel for work left their children functionally unsupervised for extended periods. They trusted that Ethan was matured enough to handle the responsibility, and on paper he was, but 15-year-old, no matter how mature they seem, are still children with developing brains and impulse control. They need adult supervision and guidance. Our society has created economic structure that often require both parents to work long hours or travel frequently, and single parent families face even more extreme challenges. But children's safety and well-being can't be sacrificed to career demand. This doesn't mean parents should never work or travel. It means we need robust support system, quality childcare, community resources, and workplace policies that allow parents to be present in their children's life. And when parents can't be physically present, they need to be trustworthy adults who are not just checking in for 30 minutes but providing real supervision and connection. Finally, we need to talk about recovery and healing. Sophie's story doesn't end with the abuse. It continued through therapy, through rebuilding trust, through learning to feel safe in the world again. Recovery from sexual childhood abuse is possible. It requires time, professional support. It requires time, professional support, loving caregivers who are willing to do their own healing work, and a community that believes and supports survivor. It requires understanding that healing isn't linear, that there will be setbacks and hard days, that triggers can appear years later, but that with support, survivor can do reclaim their life. It requires understanding that healing isn't linear, that there will be setback and hard days. That trigger can appear years later, but that with support, survivor can and do reclaim their life. They go on to have relationship, carer, families of their own. They learn to integrate their trauma into their story without letting it define them. Sophie is on that journey now. A 9-year-old, she's already shown more courage and resilience than most adults will ever need to summon. She deserves a future where she will know for more than what happened to her. She deserves to be seen as the whole person she is and is becoming. How does Sophie's story make you feel? Can you imagine being a parent receiving that phone call from police? Can you imagine being a teacher who saw the warning sign but didn't know how to interpret them? Can you imagine being 7-year-old trying to find the words to describe something you didn't understand? Gathering the courage to tell even though you've been threatened into silence. Take a moment with those questions. Let them sit uncomfortably because that discomfort is important. That discomfort might motivate you to have conversation you've been avoiding with your own children, to pay closer attention to behavioral changes, to take seriously the nagging feeling that something might be wrong, even when you can't quite name what it is. That discomfort might save a child. If you're watching this and you work with children, please get training in recognizing signs of abuse and trauma. Please create space where children feel safe disclosing. Please take behavioral changes seriously even when they seem minor. Please don't assume that consigning behavior has an innocent explanation without investigating. If you're a parent, please talk to your children about body safety starting at age appropriate level when they are young and continue those conversations as they grow. Please monitor your children's internet use and have honest conversation about what they are seeing online. Please pay attention to dynamics between your children and don't dismiss consigning sexual behavior as normal exploitation without understanding the difference. Please be present, truly present, not just physically in the house but emotionally available to what your children need. Please create a home environment where any topic can be discussed, where asking for help is encouraged, where mistake can be admitted without fear of disproportionate punishment. This thing matters more than you can imagine. If you're a young person struggling with thoughts or urges that scare you, please know that having those thoughts doesn't make you a bad person, but acting on them does cause harm. Please reach out to a trusted adult or a counselor, a therapist, a helpline. There are people who can help you understand what you're experiencing and give you tools to manage it healthily. You don't have to struggle alone. Seeking help is brave, not weak. It is the difference between becoming someone who causes harm and becoming someone who heals and thrives. And if you're a survivor of sibling abuse or any form of childhood sexual abuse, please know that it wasn't your fault. Nothing you did or didn't do caused someone else to choose to hurt you. You deserve support and healing. You deserve to be believed. You deserve to tell your story if and when you're ready. And you also deserve to keep it private if that's what feels right. Your healing journey is yours alone and there is no timeline or right way to do it. Please don't consider reaching out for professional help if you haven't already. Trauma therapy works. Survivor heals. You can reclaim your life and your sense of self. You are more than what happened to you. Before we close, I want to share some statistics that help put Sophie's story in context. According to the National Center for Victims of Crime, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18. In approximately 35% of those cases, the abuser is another juvenile, often a sibling or peer. The vast majority of child sexual abuse occur within families or by someone the child knows and trusts. Stranger danger isn't the real danger. The real danger is often sitting at the dining table or living down the hall. Studies on sibling sexual abuse suggest that it may be up to 5 times more common than parent-child sexual abuse. Yet, it receives far less attention in prevention efforts and public awareness campaigns. When reported, sibling abuse cases often face unique challenges in prosecution and treatment because they involve two minors within the same family system. The emotional complexity is staggering. Parents love both children. They are horrified by what one child did, but they are also aware that child is struggling and need help. They are devastated by what happened to their child, but worried about being blamed for failing to protect. The family system as a whole is traumatized and requires extensive intervention to heal even partially. Now think about the people in your own life, the children you know, whether your own kid, your niece, your nephew, student in your classroom, kids on your sports team, children in your neighborhood. Are you paying attention? Are you creating space for them to talk about hard things? Are you educated about warning signs? Are you willing to have uncomfortable conversation? Are you prepared to act if you suspect something is wrong? These aren't theoretical questions. They are urgent and immediate because somewhere right now, in a house that looks just like yours, in a neighborhood just like yours, a child is being hurt by someone they trust, and they are waiting for an adult to notice, to care, to help. Will you be that adult? Or will you be like the adult in Sophie's life who saw signs but didn't act quickly enough, who trusted when they should have verified, who assumed the best when they should have investigated? I'm not asking this question to make you feel guilty. I'm asking them to make you aware, to motivate action, to break through the comfortable denial that let us believe this only happens to other people's children. It doesn't. It happens everywhere. And the only way we can stop it is by being vigilant, educated, and willing to act even when it's uncomfortable or scary. Even when we might be wrong, even when acting means disrupting comfortable assumption and facing hard truth, children are depending on us to be brave on their behalf, to prioritize their safety over our comfort, to listen when they try to tell us something is wrong, to believe them when they disclose, to fight for them when they can't fight for themselves. If you believe stories like Sophie's need to be told, if you believe awareness and education can prevent abuse, if you believe children deserve protection, I'm asking you to do something right now like this. Like this video so it reaches more people. Share it with the parents, teachers, and caregiver in your life. Comment below with the word "Children deserve protection." Let's create a community of people committed to being vigilant and proactive about child safety. Let's break the silence that allows abuse to thrive. Let's have the hard conversation. Let's be the adult who notice, who care, who acts. Because somewhere right now a child is waiting for someone to see them, to believe them, to help them. Let's make sure we are ready to be those people. Sophie's story isn't over. She's 9 years old. She has decades of life ahead of her. She will go to high school, maybe college. She will have friendship and relationship. She will discover passion and purpose. She will build a life that's hers. And yes, she will always carry what happened to her. It will always be part of her story, but it doesn't have to be the defining part. With support and healing and time, survivors transcend their trauma. They become advocates, artists, parents, professionals. They become who people with complex identity that includes they aren't limited to their survivor. That's the future Sophie is working towards. That's the future every survivor deserves. And we as a society, as community, as individual have a role to play in making that future possible through awareness, through action, through refusing to look away from uncomfortable truths, through protecting children with everything we have, because they deserve nothing less. They deserve safety, childhood, innocence, and the chance to grow up without carrying burdens they should never had to bear. That's what we owe them. That's what we must commit to providing, not perfectly, because we are human and will make mistakes, but persistently, consistently, with everything we have. For Sophie, for every child like her, for the future we want to create where stories like this become rarer and rarer. until they finally unthinkable. That's the world worth fighting for. Let's build it together.